Hello guys! Tonight we have something different. I actually wrote a story of my own called Bless Me that I wanted to share with you guys first. So this is gonna be a little premiere, you know? I really hope you're gonna enjoy it. The thing about old churches is they never really get quiet. People tend to think they do, but they don't. St. Anselm's had been settling into its foundation since 1883, and on a Saturday afternoon in late October, you could actually hear it doing it. A tick here, a groan there. Then the radiators knocking like some foul creatures in the basement wanted to escape. Old buildings talk to themselves, and so do old men. Sometimes it's pretty hard to tell the difference. The man in the confessional had been kneeling long enough that his knees had gone past hurting into a kind of cold numbness, and he was glad for it. He felt he'd earned a little numbness. Outside the velvet curtain, the 4 o'clock light came through the west windows and threw colors across the empty pews. Red, gold, a blue so deep it looked like a bruise. Inside the booth there was only dark, and you could smell it. Old varnish, candle smoke, and 60 years of nervous sweat soaked into the wood. It was the smell of secrets. The booth had eaten 1,000 of them, and it was still hungry for one more. "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned," he whispered. "It's been 6 days since my last confession." In front of him was a lattice of small wooden diamonds, and beyond it, shadow. He waited for a moment, out of habit, out of courtesy even. Then he went on. "I killed a woman 6 days ago. I'm going to say it plain, because I think that's the only way it counts. If you dress it up, it isn't a confession anymore. It becomes a story." The boot ticked, settled, and listened. Her name was Marianne Kessler, 44 Delancey Court. The grey house with the dead hydrangeas she never got around to cutting back. I want you to have the details, because I think God keeps a ledger, and I think He counts all the small details. His voice was steady. That was the awful part, and he knew it. A man should shake saying these things, but his hands simply lay folded on the little shelf in front of him. "I went in the back door at 11. She never locked them. Funny how people deadbolt the front and leave the back wide open. Like that is polite, like that knocks. I had a knife, boning knife precisely, 5-inch blade, bought for cash 2 towns over from a man who'd never remember my face. I wore gloves as well. I'd thought about it for a long time, you see. That's the sin inside the sin. It wasn't an act of madness, I planned it." Somewhere out in the church, a door opened and shut, footsteps far away, then gone. He lowered his voice. She was watching television, a baking show. I could see the blue light coming over her head. Her head was tilted a little as I stood behind her for a while. At that moment, I could have left, but I think we both know that leaving was already long behind me by then. The first stab went in under the ribs. She made a sound. Not a scream, but smaller than that, like the sound you make when you remember you left your stove on. The second stab, I don't even remember doing, but it was thereafter, so I must have. He stopped for a moment, swallowed, and the boot waited, patient as a well. She slid down off the couch onto the carpet, and I want to tell you the part I see every time I close my eyes. She twitched. Maybe for a minute, maybe more. Her left hand kept opening and closing on the carpet, opening and closing. Then the hand stopped. Then she stopped. And the lady on the TV said, "Let it rest before you slice it." God's honest truth, and I laughed. Standing over her with a knife in my hand, I laughed. I think that's the one I'll definitely burn for. Not the killing, the laugh. The dust turned slow in the blade of light through the curtain. But I suppose you want to know why. I mean, everybody wants the why. They think it makes the thing smaller or easier to carry. Fine. She knew something about me, and she knew it for months. She was kind about it too. which is worse than blackmail. Every Sunday she would smile at me, and that smile said, I know, I know, I know. And a man can't live inside another person's mercy, you know. It rots him. I rotted. I'm not asking to be let off. I'm asking, can a man do a thing past forgiving and still be of any use to anybody? Do the hands matter? Or only what the hands do next? Because I could keep going. That's what scares me the most. I could just keep going and nobody would ever... Somebody knocked on wood. His heart slammed like a fist on a locked door. Father? A boy's voice called. It was Danny, the altar server. Sorry to bother you, but confession starts at 4:30. There's a line already. Mrs. Albright's first. She said she won't take long. The footsteps padded away up the aisle. He looked at the empty lattice and shadow behind it, where nobody had been sitting, nobody at all, the whole time. Just the dark, eating one more secret. Amen, he said. Father Michael straightened his stole, slid the screen open, and waited for the first sinner to kneel. This is it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to your comments below. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.